Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm excited because today we're doing another video reviewing one of my most anticipated books of 2022. I feel a little iffy on this one, but we're going to talk about that. So today we will be talking about The Resting Place by Camilla Sten. Camilla Sten wrote one of my most impressive novels from a debut author, or at least like a new author to me. Last year she wrote The Lost Village. I don't actually think it was her first novel, but I do think it was her first novel that was translated into English for a wider audience. I believe she is Swedish. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly certain she's Swedish. She's definitely European, and does a lot of what I like to call like kind of this like contemporary new wave gothic lit style, where a lot of her stories are very, very atmosphere based. They're very slow burn stories. However, they aren't following traditional gothic narratives. She does like to play up with the sanity of our main characters quite a lot. But the quintessential factors of a more traditional gothic tale it aren't fully there. It's usually not like one figure alone in a sprawling mansion, but there are a lot of tonal and thematic consistencies between Camilla Sten's work and traditional gothic, which is something that you definitely find in The Resting Place. Now, I was really excited about The Resting Place because unlike The Lost Village, which is based in an abandoned village, this was going to be based in like an old abandoned house, and that's, to me, kind of screamed more gothic than The Lost Village. And oddly, The Lost Village was way more gothic in tone than The Resting Place. The Lost Village, I believe, was a 4-star read from me. I don't think it fully made it into my top 10 books of 2021, but it was one of my honorable mentions. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very unique read. It was really fun and dark and brooding, and it was very scary at times, which I really enjoyed. The Resting Place kind of fell short on a few of those things. I'm going to read the inside flap for y'all. I know some of you hate that, but oh well, I'm going to. So it says, the medical term is prosopagnosia? Let's go with that. The average person calls it face blindness, the inability to recognize a familiar person's face. When Eleanor walked in on the scene of her capriciously cruel grandmother Vivian's murder, she came face to face with the killer, a maddening expression that means nothing to someone like her. With each passing day, the anxiety of having come so close to a killer and not knowing if they'd be back overtakes both her dreams and her waking moment, thwarting her perception of reality. Then a lawyer calls. Vivian has left her a house, a looming estate tucked away in the Swedish woods, the place where her grandfather had died suddenly, a place that has housed a chilling past for more than 50 years. Eleanor, her steadfast boyfriend Sebastian, her reckless aunt Veronica, the lawyer, all will go to this house of secrets looking for answers, but as they get closer to uncovering the truth, they'll wish they had never come to disturb what rests there. A heart-thumping, relentless thriller that will shake you to your core. The Resting Place is an unforgettable novel of horror and suspense. So I want to talk about the absolute major problem with The Resting Place, and that is that I don't know anything about this prosopagnosia. I'm going to call it face blindness because you know I'm going to be able to pronounce that a lot. And I don't know anything about it, but from what Camilla Sten gave the reader as her definition, I thought I had a decent grasp of it until inconsistencies started popping up. I was very confused by our main character's inability to recognize faces, and then ability to recognize certain traits that people had, certain expressions they were making. I know that she spoke about like people who have this face blindness being able to find like things on someone's face that they can use almost as like guides. So like heavy eyebrows, or like a certain type of hair, or a scar, something kind of out of the ordinary of the average face that allows them to recognize a human. But I felt that a lot of times in this novel, this book played up very, very much religiously what Camilla Sten had defined as face blindness for her main character, and then on other times would just completely ignore it. It was almost like Camilla Sten had forgotten. And so it kind of felt like it was only used for points of convenience. throughout the story, which I found was very strange and bizarre. I will say that the twist, I wouldn't call it predictable. It was more like I kind of suspected it. And when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But like the reason I say it wasn't fully predictable is because for this twist to make sense, there's definitely some plot holes or like a lot of character development that needs to be added in. We have a character who goes from being one type of person. We have a character who starts at one personality and evolves into a completely different personality throughout the story. And that evolution of that personality is not explained. It is just this kind of throwaway of like, yep, that happened. And you're like, whoa, 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 wait, what, why? And it doesn't quite make sense. Like they do a full 180. And I really could have believed that had there been more to allude to how that happened. And when you just kind of underdevelop that, but expect the reader to take that at like face value, it's just not going to work. The other major twist in this book, I guess you could predict. To be perfectly honest, I remember kind of thinking about it, but then being like, this twist revolves around such a minor character that I was like, I don't care at all. Like, when they revealed this twist, I had to sit there and be like, who? What? Why? Like, it was just like so unnecessary, and there's like no build up to it. It was, and I don't really want to talk about it because I'll probably ruin the twist for y'all, but it would be like, I don't know, who's like a super, super, super minor character. It was just like a character that you don't even remember exists. So when the twist happens, you're just like, who is this person? What, where are they? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I guess they were mentioned like twice in passing. And sometimes I guess that would work in like film because that person can visually be in the background. But in this story, they're just not really present for anything. And then all of a sudden are a huge factor. And then their backstory gets cloudy, doesn't quite make sense. Like this book, had this book been about 100 more pages, not even 50, I'll give it, to really clarify all of the questions that emerge with these kind of out of nowhere twists, I would have been like, okay, I see it. Like, it really needed that rewind moment and explain everything with the twist revealed to the reader for you to get it. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen The Clove Hitch Killer, which highly recommend. Very, very, very disturbing. Just watch that. But the twist happens in that book, and then in that movie. The twist happens in that movie, and then they rewind and show like a good 30 minutes of the movie from another perspective for the twist to make sense. This book really, really needed that. And I think Camilla Sten was trying it because this book is told through the eyes of our main character and then through diary entries of another main character's past. And it weaves and it lines up pretty nicely, but again, plot holes. Other major plot holes, there is the diary. And had somebody just Google translated the entire thing, none of this would have happened, and it would have, would have made a lot more sense. But yeah, no, this book had a lot of plot holes, but I did enjoy the atmosphere. I did really like reading this book. I didn't dislike it at all. It was a 3-star read for me. I debated giving it 4, but The Lost Village was so strong that I just couldn't put it on the same pedestal. And the plot holes were just there. Like, I can ignore the plot holes and read this as kind of like a fun, dark, whimsical whodunit mystery in a creepy haunted house with a bunch of like twists and turns and like nefarious characters. But the more I think about this book, the less this book makes sense and the harder this book is for me to believe. So was this book a disappointment? No, it wasn't a disappointment at all. I really did enjoy reading it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. I learned about a condition that I've never heard of before that I find really fascinating, to be honest. And I really liked the setting. I thought the setting was cool. I loved the flashbacks, the flash forwards. I loved how it was all woven together. I just felt like it felt rushed and that it wasn't fully developed. and just could have been longer if it wanted to explain more. The twist, I think the author wanted the reader to take the twists for granted and not read more into them, which to me felt kind of lazy, or unfinished. But I did like it overall. I really liked the character Veronica. She's kind of like this sassy aunt, and you're not really sure if she's a good guy or a bad guy throughout the whole thing, and she was just great to read about. And then there was several very, very one-dimensional characters. I found Mads to be very one-note. His story is very tragic. The lawyer, whose name I can't remember, I think it was Rickard. And the only reason I can't remember it is because they love to just refer to him as the lawyer for some reason. He was very one-dimensional. He was shady, and he's a very shady character from the beginning, and yet he is just there. He doesn't really do much. Our main character, also very woe is me, not much depth. Her boyfriend could not be more boring. So, I don't know. I felt like a lot of the characters needed more development, especially when you have very charismatic, intriguing, strange characters like Veronica and Vivian, and they're kind of supported up by these just one-note, don't really care other characters. Overall, the story was really cool, setting was really, really cool, spooky, mysterious, weird, loved the isolated house in the dead of winter, or at least in the snowstorm, it might not have been the dead of winter. But the characters kind of weak, story had a lot of plot holes. Fun read though, really good beach read. Like if you're gonna just sit on a beach and you just want to read something that you don't have to think too much about and you want like twists and turns and surprises, read this. Yeah, average book. Fun to read, not very mentally stimulating, but like cool. So, and that's kind of all that I have to say about it. Like, I really, really wanted to love it. I really loved The Lost Village. The Lost Village is much more of a slow burn. Like, it's a lot of, like, mystery, intrigue, The Lost Village plays a lot on ambiguity and works very, very well, because at the end, all of the questions that you have pretty much have a resolution. This one was a little more pungent and a little less slow and ambiguous, but for some reason left me with more questions and more, I don't quite understand how we got from point A to point B. But I like Camilla Sten's writing style. I think she's a really cool author to look out for. I think she's pretty young. I know her mom's a really famous author as well. So definitely would be reading more from her. Wasn't super impressed with this book, but wasn't underwhelmed at all. I mean, I would read this for fun. I wouldn't read this to be blown away, but I would read it for fun. So yeah, that's all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah!